My name's Justin.
And I'm LaBre.
And this is the Better Together podcast. What a week this has been.
This has been an unprecedented week.
That's a good use of a word that I really got tired of about 4 years ago.
It's resurrected now.
Yeah, at least in our little pocket of the world or the country.
Yeah. In this region, it has popped up so much more lately that it makes me want to just say it all the time.
Yeah.
And joke about it because of how bad it was used before.
Yeah, for those of you who aren't aware, we live in East Tennessee that got, I want to say like pummeled by snow, but it wasn't like, oh, this is so awful, like power's out, because it was a light snow.
Yeah.
But it was a thick snow. It was a lot. We had 8 inches of snow
here
in one day.
Yep.
And our normal yearly accumulation of snow, like I don't know this for a fact, but like from experience, I would say is no more than like 3 inches for the year, if even that.
Yeah.
We had many years growing up where it just didn't snow at all.
For real. This really is taking us back to the blizzard of 93.
Like, so today is Thursday. We're going to pull back the curtain.
Oh.
Today's Thursday. We're recording this episode, obviously, to come out tomorrow on Friday. And I talked to people at work. This was the first day that I'd gone back to work because of the snow. So Monday was Martin Luther King Day. I was off for that being a federal holiday. And then Tuesday off because of snow. Wednesday off because of snow. And today I went in at 10 o'clock because of snow.
Yeah.
Which has never happened
in the history of where you work.
Well, like never multi-days.
Yeah.
Maybe one day, maybe something like that. Never multi-days because of snow. The whole time my dad's worked there, which is 15 plus years, that's not happened.
Yeah.
And so like I think I talked to a guy that's been there for 30 years, 30 or 40 years. He's like, this has happened 4 times since I've been here. And then they were also saying that like, I was like, you know, I'm younger, like I'm not even 30 yet. So I'm like, you know, when was the last time that it snowed like this, where you had this much snow that quickly and that it stayed? And everybody's like, the blizzard of 93, which is the whole joke of our area. It's like the blizzard of 93.
Every time we get any sort of significant snow, it's always like Snowmageddon, you know, whatever year.
But this was the first time like I've ever just seen that much. Like this is what I dreamed of as a kid. Like if I was in middle school right now, this was like everything I ever wanted.
Yes. This is every school-going kid's dream.
Yeah. And I didn't get to tell you this. Oh. So I told you like I was going in, and then like when I came down one road into another city is when I started seeing cars on the side of the road. What was funny is I started like noticing the license plates, and a lot of them weren't from Tennessee.
Oh.
I saw like a New York license plate.
Why
and
you
some
get
other
stuck
stuff
on our road?
Well, that's the thing is they're like, oh, these Southerners, they don't know how to drive, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, we have these things, they're called hills.
Yeah.
And
lots of them.
And they're like steep. It'll be like you're driving on a flat, and then all of a sudden, like our driveway, our road in front of our driveway is completely flat.
Yep.
The driveway or the road in front of our house that connects to our driveway is flat. But as soon as you get to the stop sign, which is within eyesight of our driveway, I could throw a football and hit the stop sign.
You hit 2 hills that way before you hit the stop sign. Because there's 2 little on that side.
I wouldn't even consider that, though. I'm just saying, like, if you go out of our driveway and turn, you get to the first stop sign.
Yeah.
And there's just a massive hill.
Yeah.
Or you go the other direction, and it does hump a little bit to the next stop sign, and then that stop sign parks you on a hill.
Yep.
So it's like you can't even hardly get out until there's sufficient clearing because you don't even have momentum.
Yeah. And before they came through and cleared some of it, like they got down to the ice and exposed that to the road, there were, you know, a decent amount of people traveling by.
Well, the thing is this, and this is what I talked to, because I talked to a guy today at work who I believe is from like Wisconsin, Minnesota, something like that. But he also said that he lived in Alaska for a long time. And he was saying that, you know, it's different in those places. And I was like, yeah, I don't think the people here, especially in our city, I was like, I don't think they understand how to properly do the snow truck, the plow truck. And he's like, yeah, they don't even run the blade on the road. And I'm like, exactly. I said, you can't you can't take the most of the snow off and leave an inch underneath, because I think the road was better before they plowed it.
Yeah. You could
Honestly,
grip on the snow at least.
there was something to grab onto. I mean, the plow truck even got stuck in our neighborhood for a little while. I wasn't sure he was going to get out, but
I really thought they were going to have to get a tow truck to come get him.
yeah.
Oh.
Well, and then you got the snow, and then that's lingered around, and then a couple days later, it was -2 in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
which is just insane.
Yep.
So this is just not our typical weather.
No, but since they exposed the ice, there's been less and less people come through.
Yeah.
You would think, like, as the longer we've been stuck, the more people are going to try to get out.
It's funny because I guess so. So I found out late on Monday that we were going to be closed on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Tuesday, they said we're going to open at 12 on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Well, by 10 o'clock, they were like, that's not going to happen. But on Wednesday, it was funny because I kept seeing people drive up the road.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, well, at least I'm seeing people make it. And then they were like, you know what? We're just closed still. We're going to open at 10 on Thursday. Well, I wake up and I come out here and I didn't hardly see anybody go up. And I'm like, I just want to see somebody be able to do this before I try. Now, thankfully, we have a 4-wheel drive truck.
Mm-hmm.
We live in the South, so obviously we have all-terrain tires.
Yep.
You know, you can't live in the South with a pickup truck and have regular tires.
Yeah.
You have to have all-terrain tires.
Exactly. It's like a rule.
Because they look cooler.
You'll get fined if
Yeah.
you don't have them.
Yeah, like you get a pass, like you can run the factory tires until they run out, but
Yeah.
then once they're done, you have to have the all-terrain tires.
Yep.
But we do have all-terrain tires, and they have a snow rating
Mhm.
that was actually pretty good, and I was like, I don't know why that matters, but now I have that. Well, it paid off because it drove great. I used a 4-wheel drive, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but it just went. Didn't
Yeah.
have any issues. It just did what it was supposed to do through all the snow and stuff, which I'm very thankful for. The issue is now, on Thursday night, it's raining.
Yes.
And it's going to remain in like freezing temperatures tonight. So there's a good chance that we're going to wake up to everything being ice in the morning.
Again.
Yeah. So I'm not looking forward to that. But
it's like we can't catch a break. Tennessee has decided it's having winter and it's having it all right now.
yeah, because next week it'll be 60.
Yeah.
What's crazy though is so like we live in the valley.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody was telling me this too. They were like, you know, we live in the valley, and normally when you watch the radar come through, so growing up, I lived in a different city than we live in now,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd watch the thing, and you would see the storm, and like you're getting all these reports on the plateau. There's 6 inches of snow or stuff like we've
Yeah.
seen this week. And you're like, man, I hope it makes it to us. And then as soon as it would come through, you would see this circle start, and it would go to the north
Split.
and the south of us, and then it would go so far, and then it would just come back together
Mm-hmm.
as it got further east.
Yep.
And it was like, do we live in a dome? Like why does this happen? Well, so this time it was the perfect storm.
Yes.
And so I actually heard, because we don't watch the news, we don't
Yeah.
know any of this. We're basically sitting around just waiting for bad stuff to find us.
Yeah.
We'll never find out about it
Mhm.
beforehand.
If the weather app on our phone does not give us any indication of what's going
And it still doesn't tell you too much about severity.
Yeah.
And
It's
so,
like, oh, there could be snow
but
on
we
this
live,
day.
but we live in a place too where like they warn you all the time of things that never happen. And so
Yeah.
like this time, we didn't prepare at all.
No.
And I was talking to a guy that lives on the plateau, and he was like, they were reporting this for the last 3 or 4 days, and I was like, yeah. And they report all kinds of stuff, and it never happens. So what point did we
Exactly.
have to believe it this time? This one
Mhm.
sounded too good to be true. But they said that because of the way it came through, and it came through the valley, that there was more snow in the valley than there were like in the foothills of the mountains,
Well,
which would be normally where you get the most snow.
yeah, because we looked at that one news report when like it looked
Beforehand, and it
yeah.
was saying like the mountains were going to get 1 to 3, and that the valley was going to get 3 to 6 or
And
something. And
we
we're like,
would-
that must be backwards.
Yeah, we laughed. We're like, they did this wrong. Look at those silly news people. They messed up.
There's no way that could happen here.
Because it never happened.
No, but it did. It was a cool experience, and I'm glad that it was a light snow, so that way
Yeah.
like no trees seemed to go down. We didn't lose power.
Mhm.
It wasn't a big deal.
I did hear of some people losing power.
Yeah.
But it all seemed to get restored rather quickly. So God is good. He's had his
Mhm.
hand upon all of us during all of this.
Oh yeah, I'm very thankful for a
Mhm.
lot of that. It's just been a weird roller coaster, and I mean, it doesn't help that, like, every day you question, like, the work situation because, it's like, okay, am I actually going to have to go? Am I not going to have to go? And then is it worth the risk? Is it not worth the risk? Because that's the thing is here, it really is a risk.
Yes.
In other areas where it's more flat and things like that, it may not be a risk. The guy was saying that he lived in Alaska,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't plow. They just pack more and more snow. And so you're just driving on, like, really deep, but it's settled down snow. He's like, it's just so you didn't have to worry about it. But it's also flat, even in Alaska and a lot of places where people are living.
Mm-hmm.
They live in the flat areas. One guy said that he talked to somebody and they lived in, I think, like Iowa or something. I can't remember. But he got back and he's like, so why'd you leave? What was the problem? And he's like, the stop signs were too short. He's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, in the summertime, you're driving and the stop signs are way high in the air. They're like 20 feet in the air. And he's like, but then in the wintertime, they're like 3 feet tall because you're driving on all that snow because they don't plow it. They just pack it down. I was like, I never knew that. That's incredible.
That's hilarious.
But I think it doesn't
scary.
melt. So, like, the thing is like they don't have the ice problem.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't melt.
Here, we get the tiniest bit of snow. It's going to melt, and then it's going to refreeze, and we're going to have black ice everywhere.
Yeah.
All up on these hills.
It's a mess. But it feels like we're changing. And it's almost like we're going back in weather patterns to, like, when our parents were kids. Because this is what our parents are like, this was just what it was when we were growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you would just have a few inches of snow, like 5 to 6 inches, and that just, like, that happened. It's like, well, it never happened for me.
Like, I would have loved this as a kid.
Yeah, now as an adult, you're like, But thankfully, I didn't have to go to work.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that big of a deal. But it is just like, wow, this is weird. And the thing is like, times like these make me wish I was a little bit crazier. And I say that to say, like, every time these, like, big winter storm things or just, like, unexpected things happen, I'm like, I need to be a prepper. I need to be prepared. Because then you get in the moment and you're like, I'm not prepared at all. All we have is the one Mr. Buddy heater. Do we even have propane? Probably not. Well, how will we cook? What are we going to eat if the power goes out? I'm like, I don't know.
All of our food sources use electricity.
Yeah. Even our gas, we have gas heat.
Yeah.
But it has to have the fan work, so you have to have electricity for it to blow the heat through the house.
Yep. So, and our grill outside, electric.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And we're out of propane in the fire pit.
Yeah, but
so
even then you have to have a regulator to get it to use it with the other stuff. Like the smaller grills.
Yeah, but you couldn't even, like, roast something over it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like, we weren't prepared.
No. But we did have enough food in the pantry.
We did have enough food, but I was talking about that the day. I was like, I grew up in a house that always had a ton of food.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because my parents growing up, they didn't have any food.
Yeah.
Especially my mom, like, they grew up canning stuff and, like, not having a lot of money. So, like, they always were scarce on food. And so that was her dream of, like, when we have money, we're going to have a stocked food, like a stocked pantry. And so that's just how she lived. And so that's how I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And then you grew up on, like, a little bit more of the lower income side of, like, we don't always have groceries stocked well. And that wasn't a priority.
Yeah.
For your family.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're like, when I was like, no, we need to have it stocked. You're like, wait, we can have it stocked? Like, you want me to buy all the food? And I'm like, yeah, just buy whatever. And then as long as it's non-perishable, we'll just keep a good, steady supply.
I'll tell you, that was very hard to overcome.
Yeah. Like,
you buy the essentials.
You're like, okay, so I want to have green beans for a side this week, and I want to have this, and you're like buying 1 can of green beans. Yeah. And I'm like, no. We're going to buy a few cans of green beans every week until we have a stockpile of green beans. And then, like, so now, that was what was funny, too, is when I grocery shopped for a while, because when we were both working before we had our son, I would go to the grocery store, and so I had a budget. And then whatever I got to the end of, I would go to, like, the canned food aisle last. And I'm like, okay, so I bought a bunch of peas last week, so I'm going to buy a bunch of corn or, like, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I would, like, stock up on all these canned vegetables. So that way, eventually, in the pantry, I've just got everything you could ever want. I don't want to have to, like, you like to plan out all the meals.
Yeah.
Which is understandable, because it does make your life a little bit easier. Because you don't have to think about it as much every day.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm like, I don't really know if I'm going to want to have corn on Tuesday. I would rather just have enough corn and peas and stuff on hand to where it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. I can just pull that out, and it's like, I'm having peace today.
Yeah. I enjoy the planning for the aspect of not having to worry every day.
I think planning entrees makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that at all.
But overcoming the thing, like, I can buy just, anything I want at the grocery store. Like, we don't have to, like, eat it right now.
Wait.
We can just buy it.
I can get a full tank of gas
Yeah.
every time?
Every time.
I don't have to worry about, like, not having money for other stuff?
It's been mind-boggling coming out of that. If y'all have never experienced it.
If you've never experienced poverty.
God is good, y'all.
And we've had our lean times.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about that at work today, and I hope I didn't, like, mess us up any, but I'm like, okay, I'm hoping this year that we've kind of solved all of our home problems.
Yeah.
So that way massive projects. You guys obviously know that we did the bathrooms. If you've listened to other episodes of the podcast, we've got 2 brand new bathrooms because we had a leak. And so we had to have a ton of work done to fix all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that's all fine and dandy.
Yep.
We replaced the heating and air unit in the beginning of the year. All we had, and like the roof was replaced right before we moved into the house. So that's not that old.
Mm-hmm.
And then all we have left to go wrong is the water heater. And I'm just hoping it holds on. So that way we can do fun home projects this year instead of ones that it's like, damage control.
Yeah. But good news is we did do a little bit of research on the water heater situation, and we know that it wouldn't be the end of the world to upgrade when it's time.
We'll go to tankless and it'll be somewhat easy. It's just still a pain.
Yes, but it is a pain. But Lord willing, we won't have to tackle that this year.
That's the hope. But it does make me, when we do the storm stuff, to be like, or like even when we had the flat tire that one time, and I'm like, man, I need to have like just a whole bag in the car that's ready, like to have this tool or to have an inflator or to have this and that.
We've got, the normal stuff, jumper cables and
in one car though.
Yeah, and first aid kit, that kind of stuff in one car.
Yeah.
But it's the car that most of the time we would all be in.
That's true. But I'm just saying, like, I like the idea of having I like the idea of being a prepper. The issue is that trying to do that research is very difficult because you either find like oh gosh, I can't think of what it's called now. Not
the apocalypse people.
Well, yes, you either find like the really crazy people who are like, buying freeze-dried sardines or something. I don't know. But you find the people that are like way too deep into this, or it's just like, a government website that's like, make sure you have water. And it's like, okay, well, I'm good. Like we got water. That's fine. Yeah. But what about, other things? What about our other options? So it's like, I need to find somebody in the middle ground who's like just prepared for when life happens.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not worried about alien invasion or volcanoes erupting. Yeah, or zombie apocalypse. And I don't mean to offend anybody who is worried about that.
It's just not on our concern list.
It's not where I'm at.
Yeah.
And so it's like I'd like to be just a little bit more prepared though for these instances. Like obviously, like I think we're always going to be prepared on food because we just keep a good amount of food, a good supply of food. Even for when we're on the Daniel fast like we are right now, we had everything that we could eat. We didn't have to like cheat or go off of the Daniel fast. Yeah. We still had enough. And we could have went even longer.
Yes. We were able to go. You were able to go to the store today for us.
And I still didn't really buy any.
You didn't really buy anything super important and necessary. It's just some stuff that was nice to have.
Oranges and apples. That was the real, like,
yeah.
That was probably the most important thing.
We needed some breakfast fruit.
Yeah.
That was what we were out of. But the other stuff is just nice to have things. Like we could have gone through the weekend.
Yeah.
And been fine.
We probably could have gone beyond. I mean, when you start looking at like we still had a whole thing of brown rice.
Yeah.
We still got
we could have really started
flour.
Rationing things and getting a little innovative with the food. I'm
not gonna say you would be like satisfied, but you'd be full or you'd have your nutrients.
You would have something to eat that would satisfy your body's needs, not necessarily your body's wants.
Yeah. Well, and like I think being not on the Daniel fast would have made this like time require more stuff.
Yeah.
Because like being home for a week,
you would have wanted all the crazy stuff.
Well, you'd want all the crazy stuff, so you'd be like sad if you didn't have that. But also like
all the snacks.
Just the stuff. Well, snacks are one thing, but the stuff that we normally have, mainly coffee and tea. You realize how much coffee I would have drank, and we're drinking decaf coffee, so it's not like we're getting the jitters or anything crazy like that. But it's like you realize how much coffee we would have went through. Like we would have ran out of coffee, and we'd be like, we're going to go to the store and get coffee, or like tea. It's like I'm drinking a gallon of tea a day because I don't have anything else to do.
Yeah. If we would not have been on the Daniel fast, we would have at least bought a ton of coffee in preparation for this.
Yeah.
Because we would have known, like, we're just going to consume a ton of decaf coffee. It's just going to be constant.
Yeah. But I do need to figure out, like, a prepared thing. Like, just have, like, preparedness. Like, oh, I've got all these things.
Yeah.
So now, like, if a bad thing does happen, if the power goes out, if this happens. Because there's a lot of stuff. Tornadoes, floods, earthquakes, hurricanes. Like, we live in an area where that's not really a big deal.
Yeah.
But honestly, it seems to me that crazy winter weather is becoming more common in our area because we started having more snow basically in 2019 because it snowed on Christmas.
Yeah.
And then in 2020, I feel like it snowed maybe in the beginning of that year. I can't remember. But I know that it snowed every year since 2019. We've had at least one snow a year.
One decent snow.
Yeah, one decent snow a year. And then last year, because I was off for Christmas break, so it was the week before Christmas, is when the crazy cold temperatures came. And that was the first time in a long time that we had seen single digits. Because like when we grew up, it's interesting to think, because I remember growing up and it'd be the summer. You're off school for summer.
Yeah.
And we always had like a little weather station at the house, and sometimes they were fancier and sometimes they weren't. It depends on how fast they broke. But I remember we had one that was just like the temperature thing. It's like Dad had it ran out the door or whatever, and you'd go over there and look, and it would be like 107 degrees or something. Doesn't really do that anymore.
Yeah,
it rarely breaks 100 now. But we have -2 degree days like we had the other day, which, praise God, our house seems to be fairly well insulated because our heat doesn't even have to run the whole time.
Yeah.
Like it would turn off for 30 minutes at a time and then turn on for only like 5 or 10 minutes, which is a blessing all in its own right.
Yeah. Well, you got to think too, this year has been extra crazy because last year about this time, it was so nice and pretty out that I got the itch and started seeds. And
was it this early?
By the end of the month, I had seeds outside. I had stuff started inside. I put seeds outside at the end of the month.
We're going to have to look at pictures because I'm not 100% on that one.
It was at the end of January.
I
put seeds out in the garden.
I don't think so.
Yeah. I think put radishes and lettuces.
I think it was February because it snowed last year in January.
At the end of the month, I was putting seeds outside.
I don't believe you, but you can believe it. Well, it doesn't matter. You know why? Because next week's the end of the month and it's going to be 60 degrees anyways. So we're both right.
Listen, it's Tennessee. We can have all 4 seasons in a week and a half.
Yeah. We're headed that direction. It's all going to rain next week, though, the whole time.
Joy.
But, it just makes me think about, like, what I would like to have and, like, how to be prepared and stuff like that. Like, that's what hit me today. I was like, every time this kind of thing happens, I'm like, I just wish I was a little bit more crazy. To where you worry, like, but I don't want to worry and be, like, afraid of stuff. But it's like, I think my thing is, like, oh, I'm not afraid of this or that as much as, like, I don't want to be inconvenienced.
Yes.
Can we just say that? Like, let's just all be honest.
Let's be honest.
I don't want to be inconvenienced. And so it's like, well, I mean, I'm fine, but it would be nice to be able to boil some water. It's like, no, I should just spend the $30 to buy the little camp stove and be able to boil water regardless of what's going on.
Yeah. And knowing you would find uses for the little camp stove in
we've
other
already
situations.
Talked about before, like when we go on, like, long drives and stuff through the mountains and things, like how cool it would be to pull out that stove and, like, just cook a little meal right there and then continue on your day.
Yeah.
Like, that would be fun.
Yeah.
There's some fun aspects to that. But we need to just get the stove.
Yeah.
We've talked about it long enough. We just need to do it now. But then there's just other things. Like, even today, when I went to get in the truck to leave, I'm like, I don't know what the road conditions are going to be like because some people are like, oh, roads are fine. And other people are like, it's Armageddon out there, man. I couldn't do it.
And you can't trust anything anyone says on Facebook because you'll have people in the same comment thread saying, no, look, it's totally fine. Look, here's a picture of the road. It's fine. Just drive slow. Another one saying, no, don't do it. Don't leave your house. It's not worth it.
And then you've got the news that's out in the road and they're telling you, hey, you guys shouldn't be out driving. And I'm like, but you drove to get here. And you're telling us now that driving's the worst thing that you can do. Maybe you should lead by example, news guy.
Yeah. Maybe just like show the traffic camera and be like, see guys, it's not good. Just stay home like we did.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That was my thing too. Is like, well, I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm so glad they gave us off work, or that person who's like, they should just cancel work today and then go to Walmart. Like, no, if I'm not going, then I'm gonna just stay home.
Yeah.
It's the same thing of like church. We hear a lot. There's a lot of different views, and I'm not condemning anybody, but we're very serious about not getting other people sick.
Yes.
Because I don't want to inconvenience other people. And so, if it's Wednesday and one of us gets sick,
yep.
The way that sickness works, and I don't mean to offend anybody, and I'm sorry, but the way sickness works is if one person pops sick in your house on a given day, just because you don't have symptoms or a fever that day doesn't mean you're not carrying the same sickness and that you won't be sick tomorrow. So just give it time.
Yep.
And so, like, if you are sick and I'm like, well, if I don't want to get anybody else sick, so I'm not going to go to church. I'm also not going to Walmart or to Food City or anything like that. Like, if we stay home for any reason, we're staying home.
Like, end of story.
Like, that's just the way that we are. And so, like, especially when it comes to winter weather like that, my dad said the best thing, and he's like, yeah, we don't make enough money in a day to make it worth our deductible for our insurance. And I'm like, you have a valid point, sir. I think I'll stay home. That was before we knew that they were going to close work.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go either.
Yeah.
But I'm glad, honestly, like, if you think about it, it's great that they closed work. It's such a blessing. And I do feel like I'm going to be the person who's like, I believe God had his hand, even if it was just for us, in it, because it was stressful to worry about it and to think about it because of the amount of snow, and it was just on the roads.
Yes.
And so it was very concerning for us. And so I feel like a great blessing that we didn't have to do it, because also, even if we had called out one day, the next day wasn't better.
Yeah.
The next day after that
wasn't
better. So, like, it would have just been so much used vacation time in the very beginning of the year, in a year that we are really going to need vacation time.
Yes.
So it's just a challenging thing.
Yeah, I'm very thankful, and I have thanked God every day for him allowing you to be home, and even for the conditions today to be what they were, so that way you were able to make it. We'll have to continue to be in prayer because of this freezing rain tonight.
Yeah. Well, that's why I went today, is because I thought about not going, and then I said, well, I'm pretty sure I'll make it, and it's not going to be a big deal, but tomorrow, I don't know what the conditions are going to be like, and if they decide to make us come in, and there's a layer of ice on the road, it doesn't matter what kind of four-wheel drive you have, unless you've got chains or spikes or something, you're not going. So I figured I'll go today when the conditions are at least a little more favorable, so that way if tomorrow they're not, then I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
So
come back next week to find out what happens.
So I told you about how busy the store was.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. And I don't know if that's just like how the store is at 4 o'clock on any given day.
Oh, I don't know.
Because I've never been at 4 o'clock. But it was a madhouse. And so I did something really dumb that I haven't told you about.
Uh-oh.
And it happened in the parking lot. So first of all, none of the parking spots were cleared hardly.
Of course.
The only spots that were cleared seemed like where people had parked during the storm, and their cars sat there until recently because like there was just the outline of a car in a spot, which I don't fully understand.
Yeah, someone left their car there.
But I don't understand why at Food City.
Employees, maybe?
I don't know. But so I'm backing out, and I hate the parking lots now where they're like angled. So like if you come down, you park on one side, and if you go up, you park on the other, because then it forces you to have to drive in front of the store at some point. And so I'm like looking, and there's nobody coming, and I'm like, okay, well, I can back up and like back kind of the wrong way, but be able to turn. And it was still a two-way traffic. But I can back, and instead of having to drive up the aisle and go through the walkways and stuff, I'll be able to turn. Well, first of all, you can't turn sharp in four-wheel drive. I don't know if you know that or not. I'm going to have to sneeze. You're going to have to talk first.
Yeah, you definitely can't do that. I've tried turning during, like, when we've had it in four-wheel drive, and it's very tough.
Yeah, so you can't turn. I thought I was going to sneeze, and then it went away, thankfully. But So yeah, you can't turn sharp, and so I'm trying to back out, but I've got it in 4-wheel drive, and like you can feel the wheels slipping and stuff. So I switched to 2-wheel drive, and I'm backing out, but I'm looking all around me, and I don't see anything, and so I keep backing up, and then I look down in the camera, and I hit a buggy in the truck.
Justin.
Okay, but first of all, it didn't do anything to the truck
Good.
because
Okay.
buggies don't want anything. What happened, and it's partly my fault. So I went and put my buggy up in this buggy
Mhm.
corral that was almost behind the truck, and I pushed mine in there, but somebody just didn't even try. It was just like because like there's snow in the buggy
Yeah.
thing, so it was difficult in
Mhm.
quotes. And so I pushed mine in there, and it wasn't that bad. I should have just grabbed that one and pushed it in there, and I didn't do it. And so I backed up, and I'm watching this truck beside me to make sure I'm not going to hit it. Well,
Mhm.
I didn't look at the camera, and my truck doesn't beep at you to warn you about
Yeah.
stuff. And so the next thing I do, I look down, and I've hit this buggy. And I felt like such a dummy.
Oh.
And I'm like so worried. So I went to get gas after, and I like hop out of the truck and I run to the back, and like you couldn't even tell.
Okay.
But it worried me, and I was like,
Yeah.
how dumb do I have to be?
I mean, we put that truck through the ringer this last year, doing that one trail.
Yes.
So I mean, it wouldn't have been the worst.
But I still like
But
I
like,
hit something in a
ugh,
parking lot,
yeah.
Bree. I'm so sad.
I know.
Like it really killed me. I was like, oh, and you know how I get about being dumb, and so like it really hurt me. I was like, what? It was the, but what it is, you know, it was the buggies are obviously lower than the tailgate,
Yeah.
and so I'm looking through all the windows,
Mhm.
but I don't see the stuff that's that low, and I don't
Yeah.
expect it to be so far out in the aisle.
Mhm.
But thankfully, it didn't do anything. But I did feel like a silly head.
Yeah, I'm thankful that when you made it through the store situation in one piece. Um, I can just imagine the chaos that was in the store. Did you go through what was the milk, bread, and egg situation like?
You know, I was pleasantly surprised. So there was a lot of people just like restocking, and
Mhm.
because we're on the other half of the storm,
Mhm.
like nobody was going crazy,
Oh, good.
and most people really didn't have like that much. Either it seemed like they had a full buggy, like a normal grocery
Mhm.
haul, or they just were picking up a few things, like I was,
Mhm.
and so the shelves were relatively stocked well. Like there was
Good.
just full shelves, everything you
Mhm.
expect. The milk, there was plenty of milk. Like everything I looked at, like it didn't seem like they've been bombarded or like stripped out of anything.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, I thought I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. But then you didn't damage the truck, even though you hit a buggy. So.
I'm glad it was a buggy and not a car
Yeah,
or
or
a
a
person.
person.
So, but
Yeah.
it was just like, man, how
Mhm.
dumb do I have to be?
Yeah. Now, you're always getting on to me because I like to use the camera. You rarely use the camera.
Well, not that I rarely use it. The truck, the screen is very small,
Yeah.
and so that's a part of it. But also, like, I try to look in everything, but it was that moment of like I'm stuck in the snow and
Mhm.
I'm backing out and turning forward and like all these things, and it was like, oh my gosh, I should have just went through the pedestrian line. You know what I mean? That's what I really thought. I was like, why couldn't I just manned up and just went through the way that I didn't really want to instead of trying to do this silly thing. But it was also nerve-wracking trying to pick a parking spot because
Yeah.
of all the snow and everything anyways. So, you know,
It was an adventure for you for sure.
yeah.
But you made it back in one piece. Thank
Yeah.
the Lord.
And I didn't mind driving in the snow and stuff too much.
Mhm.
And what it really comes down to is that's the other half is like weather like this either makes me want to be a prepper
Mhm.
or at least to have like the vehicle that you're not as worried about.
Yeah.
Like an old Jeep or something that like
Mhm.
it's built for this. It's
Yeah.
2 doors, 4-wheel drive, small,
Mhm.
good grippy tires, and it can just put the weight down and just do what it needs to do in that kind of situation.
Yeah.
That's really like what would be great right now.
Mhm.
I don't foresee that happening, sadly.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to just have something like that, and it would make life, like so you don't have to worry about it. Because like
Yeah.
right now, and it would be nice if it was like back in the old days when you could buy a little Jeep Wrangler or something and it wasn't super expensive.
Yeah. That'd be
Because
nice.
yeah,
Ugh.
because like the truck is like my main transportation and is a valuable vehicle still.
Yeah.
It's like if I crash this thing, like that really sucks.
Yeah.
If this gets dented or something like that, because I'm also not gonna get a crash in the snow. I don't think where I'm like destroying a vehicle.
Yeah.
You're
You're
just
not going to total it.
You're just doing enough damage to hurt your value.
Yeah.
And to hurt your feelings.
Mhm. Mostly
So,
your feelings.
yeah, and your pride.
Yeah.
That was the thing is like people were driving either two ways, either so cautious that it was dangerous or so reckless that it was dangerous. Like, I'm not afraid of the snow, blah, or and like that's when you come into issues. Or like
That's 90% of the people who've driven past our house.
yeah, or when you're driving 15 miles an hour down the road, it's like, okay, we're going so slow right now that somebody's gonna come and hit us.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
guys, like we need to go just a little bit better.
and in that, it's because I was talking to our neighbor about this. People would drive so slow that it's going to make someone get road rage and act a fool and
Yeah.
cause a whole big wreck.
Well, and the other issue though is like if you're driving slow here
Mm-hmm.
in the snow, you're hindering yourself because you can't make it up hills.
Yeah.
You need a little bit of momentum on some of
Mhm.
these hills in the snow and ice
Yeah.
to be able to get up in the first place. But we're not trained for that.
No. There's no proper training for how to drive in our winter conditions because, like we've said, it could be crazy one year and nothing another year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just don't know what you're going to get. So, you don't really have to learn how to drive in certain conditions because you only get it once a year.
Yeah. Yep. You're not wrong. So this weather also hindered one major thing that we were trying to do, and thankfully it was one of your responsibilities and not mine, so that makes me feel a little better. But we need to find a location to start our Bible studies
Yeah.
now, basically in 2 weeks
Yes.
from today,
Mhm.
technically, but basically almost like 1 week. So
Yeah.
it feels like it
Mhm.
feels so much closer. And then all the places we'd want to go and stuff like that. Basically, you still don't feel safe leaving the house in
Yeah.
your vehicle,
Mhm.
which I don't feel safe in you doing that either. But, it's like, man, we need to find a location. Now, nobody's at work in some of
Mhm.
these places. So it's not like you can call
Yeah.
even, and then you can't go anywhere. So it's really going to put the crunch on. But we're going to trust God to see that it works out. And if you'll
Mhm.
pray with us, our hope is to start a Bible study, to plant a church in our area.
Mhm.
So that's what we're working for. We're working with another couple, another family
Mhm.
at church, and it's going to be great things.
Yeah.
But we've just got to get that ball rolling, get the momentum started.
Mhm.
Is
We
what we're
got-
working toward.
We have to find a place
Yeah,
to
place
host this.
is the number one.
Yes.
Because and the issue is that we don't just want to invite people to our home because we want to invite as many people as possible
Mhm.
through social media, through things like that, and we really want to even be able to help people who are in the real need.
Yes.
The other couple, or I say couple, but they have kids, so it's
Yeah.
hard.
The other family.
The other family is very passionate about wanting to deal with people who are in addiction or
Mhm.
recovery needs,
Yes.
which is awesome, and I have a heart for that as well.
Mhm.
But we all have to be honest with ourselves, and we don't all just want to invite people in those situations that we don't know into our homes.
Yep. And then you got to be careful because people that are in those situations can get desperate.
Yeah.
And then they can take advantage of other people
And we only
in
say
those
that
situations.
not because of like judging people, but because of experiences
Yes.
with family members
Yeah.
and past acquaintances that those things have happened. Not
Personal
just to,
experience.
but personally to,
Yeah.
us.
Yes.
So it's like we've dealt with these people, these
So
situations. Not these people, because I don't believe it's the people. I believe that all people can be good.
Yes.
But it takes God in your life to help you, and you have to
Mhm.
have a desire to get past the things that are pulling you
Yes.
down.
And you need God to do that.
Yeah, and breaking addiction, even with God, is
Mhm.
very difficult.
Yeah.
Especially like breaking addiction to soda with God is difficult, right? Because addiction
Mhm.
is difficult.
Yeah.
But breaking addiction to things that are designed to be as extremely addictive as possible
Mhm.
is extremely difficult.
Yes.
And so it's very easy for those people to take extreme measures to try
Mhm.
to get those things again, because relapse is real
Yes.
and it does happen.
Mhm.
So
So
we're not
we
trying to
just
judge anybody, but we want to be able to help as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And in our eyes, the most comfortable way to do that is by having a neutral ground. And
Yeah.
once you get to know people, it's different.
Yeah.
But when you don't know people,
Mhm.
but have through very brief encounters or even through just inviting them through social media,
Mhm.
it's a little weird to just say, like, yeah, come to the house.
Yes. And in that, we're not only protecting ourselves, but we are protecting the other people that will be in the Bible study because we don't want anyone to be taken advantage of,
Yeah.
like at all. And we just don't want to put anyone in a position to take advantage of someone else.
Yeah. I mean, we know from experience of just like the fact that people even seek out opportunities in certain things like
Yes.
this to try to take advantage, because I don't know if many people know this or not, but churches talk.
Yeah.
And we know when there's somebody in the area who's been coming to multiple churches to
Mhm.
try to take advantage of good-hearted Christian
Yep.
people. And so that information gets around, and a
Mhm.
lot of Christians don't realize that because the churches do a good job
Of
of
handling it.
monitoring and handling issues without making a scene with
Yes.
these people, because you
Mhm.
still want to be loving and kind
Yeah.
to people that are like that,
You still want to show them God.
because they can be saved. Even if they're using faith for wicked stuff,
Mhm.
they still have an opportunity to be saved.
Exactly.
So,
So it's just,
but the storm really put a hamper on trying to find that
yeah,
location, because
'cause
I was like, we were ready to go this week. We're like,
I was
but
ready to hit the streets on Monday.
just like everything else that's happened in this, we were ready to go with this alone.
Yeah.
And then God kind of slowed us down with the house stuff, and
Mhm.
already being told no by some locations that we had
Mhm.
looked for on our own. And then this whole situation blossomed to where we found out that another family had a burden for the same city, and wanted to do the same thing, and actually have experience in small church settings, in
Mhm.
planning churches and
Yep.
things like that. And so it worked out very well. And so I'm believing that God's just making the timing even better
Yeah.
for us. But we do hope that you'll pray with us and help us on that, because that's the direction we're going. And because of that, like, there wasn't a God Notes episode of the podcast this week, and there's not probably going to be those episodes anymore
Yep.
unless I have the opportunity on like a weekend to batch record some
Mhm.
and just throw those out as their own thing. But right now, it's just the timing's not going to work, because we're going to be on Mondays. I still want to do More God Less Me, where I get to talk about a specific subject and really honestly practice preaching and teaching
Yes.
and being in that role
Mhm.
in the church. And then this podcast is just too much fun, where we get to
Yes.
just come together and
Mhm.
talk about life and talk about the journey, because like right now we're giving an update on the church plant, because we've talked about it before.
Yep.
We've talked about me becoming licensed and things like that.
Mhm.
And these are things that we can look back on, that the church can look back on in the
Yeah.
future, that our family can look back on in the future and be able to follow along with just, what was going on in those early days. And so that's why we want to talk about it on here, even though there will be some changes coming to this podcast that we've talked about a little bit, as far as probably it circling off as its own thing. And in doing that, maybe the name changes,
Yeah.
stuff like that. But I got lost. But yeah, it's just going to mean that the God Notes aren't going to be there, because I still want to do that on Mondays. We still want to release this podcast. We're trying to do a daily vlog, or a weekly
weekly.
vlog, some kind of weekly video on our vlog channel. And then we'll have Thursdays now dedicated to Bible studies. We have Wednesdays for church already. Fridays is a family day. Sunday is church. Tuesdays, I might get called to preach in some other services at some smaller churches. So we're getting to a point where weeks are about to be crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it being crazy in God and being able to be in that. I really want to be more in the front lines of faith works.
Yeah.
And it's not as easy as it sounds, and like a lot of people make it sound, to get connected and get in that without just really pushing and like forcing your way into something, in my view.
Yeah.
And maybe I view forcing as different than other people, because I'm being a little bit more introverted, but that's just what it is.
Yeah, you're not one to like continue to go back and ask, like, hey, I just wanted to check in, see if there's anything I can do to help. I know we talked about it in the past and stuff happened. I just want to touch base.
Well, I'm also not the person to see somebody in a conversation and go stand and wait for them to finish so that I can get in the conversation. It's like, I'll just talk to them another time.
Yeah.
I'm very, I don't know.
You don't
I'm
want
a
to
different
inconvenience
kind of
people because you don't like being inconvenient.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's what it boils down to a lot of times is we don't want to be seen as an inconvenience. We want to be there.
Bother.
Yeah. We want to be there to help and uplift and do anything we can, but we don't want to do that to an extreme to where it becomes a hindrance and an annoying factor.
Yeah.
So.
But it'll all be interesting. It's all going to work out in the end.
Yeah. God's got this.
Nothing you ever do for the Lord is in vain. So, to finish this thing out, I do want to touch on the Daniel fast for a little bit, just because I thought this would be kind of funny.
Okay.
And it's going to be almost impossible for you to answer because it's you.
Okay.
But if you could have one thing right now, one food right now that you've not been able to have these previous 18 days, what would it be?
Dessert.
Yeah, but you have to, like, the specifics.
Dessert.
No, like what dessert? Come on now. You can't just be like dessert. I want to have all the desserts.
Yes, all the desserts.
I would like to go to a buffet of desserts.
How about a giant cinnamon roll?
Really?
or a giant carrot cake. I
You
think I
know what
really
they
just want cream cheese
you know what
icing.
they had at the Food
A
City?
carrot cake.
They had all kinds of carrot cakes. I'm like, I understand that that spring is on its way, and I know that carrot cakes come around Easter because obviously bunnies or whatever.
Well, and you've had time for your carrots.
Yeah, but it's January.
Yeah, but
And
you can fall sow them,
well,
and
I
then you
know
can
that,
pull
but I'm
them up.
saying like, but that doesn't. They didn't do that at
No.
Food City. They got these carrots from like Mexico. I don't know where the carrots come from, but they come from seeds in our garden. No,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
at the store, I don't know where they get their carrots. But like, I was just like, I understand, and carrot cake's great,
Mm-hmm.
but it seems like it's so early to have and it was a lot of. I'm not saying like, oh, they had 2 carrot cakes. It was like a bunch of whole carrot cakes, and they were even had half them to where they were selling half carrot cakes, and I'm like, this has to be an Easter thing, but I don't understand it. But I went to Fresh Market the other day. You can see some of that stuff in our vlog from last week. The link will be in the description. And I went to the Fresh Market, and they had tulips. And what was the plant that I bought you called? I don't even know.
A hyacinth.
A hyacinth, and these are both bulbs. They're both spring flowers.
Yep.
I'm like, this is weird.
It's a little early, guys.
Yeah.
A little early.
But I think people just like to they're like, well, people like to jump on Christmas early. Maybe they'll want to buy their tulips now. But like that flower I bought you was on sale because then people were like, actually, I don't want a hyacinth in January. I don't know.
Well, I think sometimes people get turned off on those because they're so strong smelling, but I enjoy them.
Well, they have a good smell.
Very pleasant.
It is very aromatic, but it was also like a good one.
Yeah, it's a very pleasant smell, unlike some of the lilies I've encountered.
Yeah,
like those can be a little pungent.
Yeah,
but I'm ready for spring.
Well, it's easy to be ready for spring when there's still 6 inches of snow on the ground and it's 30 degrees outside.
I've been ready for spring since January hit.
You know that like Saturday is going to be a high of like 19, I think.
I want it to be warm enough to plant stuff. That's
See,
just what I want.
I said this year
I
I'm
want to
out.
plant stuff.
I'm not doing any gardening this year. I'm not planning any of it. I'm not helping with any of it.
I might need your help with building something.
Nope, too busy. And I'm also not a good builder anyway, so you should just
I just need you to hold stuff is the thing.
Do you have friends that would say they want to learn to build stuff? You just call them.
But you're here is the problem.
Nope, I'm not going to be here for that. I'm going to go find an office somewhere. Actually, this is going to sound I don't think you're going to like this. And it's going to be really weird for me to do that. But I've literally thought, because I wake up before everybody anyways, it was legitimately because I want to connect more in our city to reach our city. And I've literally thought, like, I'll just start going, like, every Saturday, I'll just go to one of the coffee shops. And as weird as it is, because all I drink is decaf coffee, I'm going to go in there and, like, order a decaf coffee.
Just bring me back one.
I can't do that. It's too expensive.
How?
Then I'll be spending, like, $10 a week.
That's the rule.
You know what that comes out to at the end of the year, Bree? That's like $500.
That's the rule. You go, you bring me back one.
You should have been up earlier.
No. You go, you bring me back one. Because kiddo
that
is going to be asleep still.
That doesn't connect with the community. So I just have to go and sit there.
But it shows the community what a great and loving husband you are.
Oh, I don't want them to think that. They'll get the wrong idea about me.
You.
Oh, I could pass that one up.
Good. Yeah, you got to show you're a good, loving husband. Make sure that they understand that you're a good role model.
See, but even
Someone
by the time,
who cares
see what would
about
happen
others.
though is I'm gonna get to the coffee shop early, and then by the time I would bring your coffee back, you've not even taken your medicine yet, so you can't even have the coffee for like 30 minutes to an hour.
Listen,
so it doesn't matter.
I will adjust my day so I can have the coffee. You know I like a coffee shop coffee.
Because it's from a coffee shop. I'm not even going for that reason, but there's nowhere else you can go do this.
So, bring me back my coffee shop coffee.
We'll see what happens. I have an idea. No. I think I know who's going to win this one. The one who has the ability to not have to do it. Okay. Well, I think that's really all that we've got for this week, though.
Yeah. I think that about covers it, really.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to Monday.
Yes. Monday.
Making the final edition, the final recap of the Daniel fast, and being able to sip on some iced coffee while we do it.
Hot coffee.
You're gonna have a hot coffee? I like hot coffee, and I'll probably have a hot coffee that morning. But like, I'm all iced. Like, that's what I want, is that iced coffee.
I want a warm beverage.
I literally had my coffee cups that you bought me for Christmas for like 7 days before we had to put them away and not get a drink out of them. I'm ready to pull those beautiful, nice glass mugs back out and enjoy them once again.
I even made sure all the coffee pot and everything was all nice and pretty today.
She's like, Precious, I'm going to get you ready. You're going to be ready for your showtime.
I was cleaning up all the coffee stuff. The time is coming.
Yeah. But it's going to be nice. Like, it really wasn't that bad before, but we're getting to that point now where I'm like, okay, I'm just ready to be done.
Yep. I want to be at the end.
And I just want to have freedom again, and it not be like difficult or things like that. Just go back to normal a little bit. It's going to be nice. But you're going to hear all about that in the upcoming video. You're going to be able to see the snow and all those things, because we've already got clips from that, from Snowmageddon, from, Winter Apocalypse 2024. So we'll have all that stuff. It's going to be a great video. I hope you guys will check it out. If you are interested, definitely you can go ahead and go to the channel. Like I said, the link will be in the description. And you'll be able to see all the videos that we've made so far, which are just like 3 about the Daniel fast. I don't know what the videos after the Daniel fast are going to be about. That was easy content. I'm still going to have to make like 48 more videos this year. However, the math gets to 48. Yeah.
You got this.
Yeah. We'll figure things out.
Yeah. It'll be an adventure. Just like everything else.
Yes. But we'll see you again on Monday for the More God Less Me podcast. But until then, we hope you guys have a great rest of your week and a great weekend. And God bless.
God bless.